Section86.com. We're changing the world of podcasting one show at a time.
86 Productions.
Take what you wanna take. Don't leave me here. Lasting leap years ever your fear of the one and only love.
Hello and welcome to Off the Mark, the best podcast providing the most in-depth insight and analysis into the world of professional wrestling. On today's show, we have Aaron, Roger, and Doug to join Andrew as we discuss this month's view from the turnbuckle. So Aaron, Austin Aries, was he released or did he quit?
We're getting conflicting reports if he, asked for his release or they said, hey, we don't really have anything for you. But either way, he was pretty happy about that. I don't think that he wanted to be pigeonholed in the cruiserweight division. He felt he could do a little bit more with that company. And I'm guessing he'll probably either go back to TNA or, have some good fortune in Ring of Honor. So we'll see him sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think this was kind of a mutual thing where it went to them and they're like, well, we don't really have anything for you. What do you want to do? I'd kind of like to get out of here. And, okay, we can do that. Sure. Here, sign this right here and you're gone. And, I mean, I hate to see it. I love to see him have a run at the Cruiserweight Championship. I would have also loved to see him stay in NXT for a little bit longer. If you needed to get him off the Cruiserweight, get him back in the NXT lineup, get him with Bobby Roode or something along those lines, and maybe make a run to see if he can be a main event player, so to say, or a decent mid-carder. But oh, well, I'm happy for Austin. Hopefully he'll do better on the independent scene, which a lot of wrestlers who've been released recently have been doing a lot better there. So we'll see him around.
Yeah, same to Doug's point. He shouldn't have left NXT, and he was hurt by that. Right now, he could be in a big-time feud with Hideo Itami still, Bobby Roode, the list goes on and on. The Cruiserweight series with Neville was fun, but I agree with Aries that he was better than just being a Cruiserweight, and they probably didn't have anything for him past that. So hopefully he hits the independent scene and tears it up. Like Doug said, NJPW, obviously with Cody Rhodes, and Ring of Honor also with Cody Rhodes. So there's a lot of options for him. Hopefully he stays away from that dumpster fire down in Memphis, though.
Yeah, that's the other thing, too. With him, when you actually get released from WWE or anytime you leave WWE, the nice part is that the independent bookings, you get more money because they can say WWE superstar, so he's going to make a lot of money, especially over the next few months. Once his 90-day non-compete clause is up, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him over in Japan. I think that's probably the best home for him. The other big news that happened was that WWE canceled Talking Smack, which I didn't know why, because that was one of the shows that even if I missed SmackDown, I still watched Talking Smack because I thought the wrestlers, it just seemed like it was completely unscripted, which I think they ended up saying it was. But I felt that like the wrestlers were able to use their true emotions on what's going on. I mean, what did you think about that, Roger?
It was odd to me that it was canceled because a lot of the characters that really shined on SmackDown were kind of developed through Talking Smack. I mean, The Miz pretty much reinvented himself with that fantastic promo. The Usos really got their character over. Corbin was doing well. I mean, like Renee Young made a joke of, I guess it's going back to and introducing my guests. It's like that was the perfect type of show to introduce a character. I don't understand why they cancel it. Like it fit SmackDown exactly what it needed, that extra hour to just develop characters. It was something you could skip as a fan. It wasn't a big deal, but you got to see extra. I know they're claiming this just going after pay-per-views, but it's not going to be the same. My guess is that the unscripted nature is what Vince didn't like, and that's why they put the axe to it. And it's a shame. Hopefully it comes back.
I had heard that the ratings or whatever was super low for Talking Smack, but I can only imagine that having to be the live version of it, because I think I'm with a majority of people here that I didn't watch Talking Smack right away, but I definitely tuned in either the next day or a couple hours afterwards when I got off work. So I hope they were looking at that number, not the actual live number. It stinks. It really does, because there were so many developmental characters on there. But at the same time, I kind of wish that they would put that development into the actual show itself instead of after the show. So hopefully this will move them to be more alive and do better promos on the show to promote the show, to make the show better than it is to just, wait until Talking Smack. Because like Andy said, sometimes I'd rather watch Talking Smack than watch the actual episode of SmackDown.
Yeah, and I'm not taking anything away from SmackDown. It's just that it adds something to the character. Like Roger said, Baron Corbin, he actually stunk. And the thing is, he's still not bad in the ring, but we were like, oh, now he can talk and he's doing something good, opposed to being the quote unquote lone wolf. And see, that's what really hurt. I think that's what's going to hurt any character development from here on out, especially for those guys who aren't getting over that much. Or like Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, he owned talking smack right after the pay-per-view. That was one of the best segments that could have happened.
I agree with all your guys' points, and I think that they're all very valid and probably all accurate. I really feel, though, that some of those people that were not able to get their voice heard on SmackDown, this gives you that extra half hour that allowed them to try to get over, that gave them that brass ring. And to Roger's point, Vince probably didn't like that it was unscripted. And we watched, it was a pay-per-view ago for SmackDown, where it looked like Jinder Mahal probably had an earpiece in because somebody was yelling at him. And he was like, yeah, and what did I do again? Okay. Oh, and the modern day Maharaja. And then he changed his tone, and they didn't allow him to be himself, which is fine. If he's playing a character, let him do that. Then just do a very quick segment. But for somebody like a Sami Zayn or an Adrian English, any of those types of guys, it gives them an opportunity to get over there with some of the hardcore fans, which then allows those people to cheer harder for them when they are on SmackDown. And that's how you build stars. So I think it was a huge mistake. Even if the numbers were really low, I still think it was a way to help get your performers over.
And to one last point, wrestling has always kind of tried to simulate sports. Well, what do you have after the end of every sports game? You have a post-game show. You talk to the winners. You talk to the player of the game. That is what Talking Smack had, that kind of feel. Oh, Jinder just won the WWE title. Let's have an interview with him. So like things like that, in my opinion, were a good thing for SmackDown. And Raw needed something like that too. I mean, even with it being 3 hours, like you need to simulate more of a realistic environment. And it's really a shame that they canceled that. And
the cost factor too, because they're already there. I don't see how it would cost them any more to do that show. Because the cameras are that. Ugh. I don't know, that irritates me. But you know what actually irritated me was actually the Universal title that was defended at Great Balls of Fire. It was Brock Lesnar take on Samoa Joe. Now, Aaron, what were your thoughts on this match? Because I think that I might have a different opinion than what you have.
I really enjoyed the match. I really enjoyed the build-up. I'd said last month that I really liked what they were doing. And I felt that Samoa Joe had that intensity there that really made you want to see that match. And the match itself, it was 6 minutes long or so, but it was a good 6 minutes. And I actually want to see it again. I know that we're going to have a fatal four-way at SummerSlam, which is really, that's going to be fun. I don't believe they've announced if it's elimination or first cover, but either way, that's going to be a fun match. However, though, it's something I want to see that match again. I hope at Survivor Series or, another big pay-per-view that they do a rematch with those two. And actually, maybe even not for the title, so that way we don't have that thought of, Lesnar's going to go over, with Joe versus Lesnar, just a blood feud. I would much rather see that.
I was happy with this match. This match was very, very well done. It didn't go very long. It didn't need to go very long, but it definitely helped Joe, I believe. Lesnar didn't look necessarily weak at all either. And so this was a good match that promoted both of them to a higher status. I would like to see Joe be more in the main event, and I'm very happy for him. I saw an article recently that said what Joe's original contract was with NXT and how he was never supposed to make it to the main event. And so now he made it to the main roster, and he's in the main event of a major pay-per-view, which is going to be SummerSlam, although he's sharing it with Strowman and Reigns. It kind of stinks for Joe that Strowman's hitting his stride right at the same time. Unfortunately, WWE is still pushing Reigns too high. And Joe, everybody seems to be high on Joe. So I will be very interested in this SummerSlam match because they really could go any way with the title.
I loved everything about it, from the build up to it, to the post, the pre-match beatdown where it made Joe look like a genius opportunist, to the fact that despite the fact that I in no way, shape or form, believed that Joe was going to win during that match, I was like, he might pull this off. And that to me that's good storytelling. And though Joe did not look weak, Brock did not look weak. I want to see this match again, to Aaron's point. And, the only bad thing is kind of what Doug said, is that everybody's hitting their stride at the same time, in the sense of Braun looks great right now. Joe looks great right now. Obviously, Lesnar has to be protected. And obviously, we have to make Roman look strong. Well, when you put 4 people who all have to be protected, you kind of know the hierarchy in the WWE. Brock's not going to eat the fall. It's not going to be Braun who eats the fall. It's not going to be Roman who eats the fall. So who loses? Well, if 3 can't eat it, you kind of know who's losing this match. So that's a little bit disappointing. But to Doug's bigger point, he wasn't even supposed to make it. And then we didn't necessarily know if he'd ever make the NXT champion, and we didn't know if he'd make it to the main roster. If my biggest complaint with Samoa Joe is that he's going to eat a pinfall in the main event of SummerSlam, so be it.
My issue, though, with this match was the fact that there was one F5 that took him out. And I think that he should have actually kicked out of the first one. If Lesnar picked him up, did a second F5, I'm okay with that. But it just seemed like everything was good about the match except the fact that he's like, it's like Mahal's finisher. Come on. People kick out of that. It's a weak finish.
Hold on. Pause. The power level between Jinder Jobber Mahal and Brock freaking Lesnar is wide enough to actually fill the Grand Canyon. Like, let's be clear about something. It's okay to lose to an F5. And to Aaron's outstanding rant last year, protecting finishers is not a bad thing, especially when you're talking about good finishers. So, I mean, I get your point, but I like the idea of Brock Lesnar being able to finish you with one F5. I don't think he needed to hit 2 or 3 because Joe still looks fantastic. He hit you with arguably the strongest finisher in the WWE today, and he beat him in 6 minutes. Not that big of a deal. It's not like he lost to a stupid Cobra Clutch slam to a guy who shouldn't even be touching the European Championship. He lost to the F5 from the strongest wrestler in kayfabe history. Not that bad.
Sorry, I wanted to do that on purpose, so then you get mad about it. But yeah,
I know you did. I know you did.
But anyway, so now of course for SummerSlam we're gonna have a fatal 4-way the way it sounds, not elimination style, but it'll be Reigns, Strowman, and Joe will take on Lesnar at SummerSlam. Now in this case, I hope that Joe does kick out of F5 in this case because I think that it'll make him more
early projections. Andy, who do you got winning?
That's a toughie because I believe that they're going to put it on Roman Reigns, but I think that the guy who should do it is Samoa Joe. Because then things change a little bit, and also he's full time; he's not part time, and that's why.
Doug, how about you?
I want to see Strowman actually win this one, mostly because of the fact that I want to see Joe versus Strowman. I don't need to see Reigns versus Strowman anymore. If Lesnar is going to be off for a while, and then so I don't think he's going to win it. And to Roger's point, somebody's got to eat the fall. So I think Strowman beats Joe, but that'll set up a future match between Joe and Strowman down the line.
I mean, how about you, Roger? Early
projections? I think it was 6 years ago where when in doubt, bet on Cena. Well, when in doubt, bet on Roman Reigns. Do I want it to happen? No. But, I mean, let's be honest here. Make Roman look strong. This is the perfect time to make him look strong by having him go over Lesnar, Strowman, and Joe all at the same time. I would say I wouldn't be super surprised if any of the 4 guys won it, which I do think is good storytelling because it's believable that all of them get a pinfall. I don't see Lesnar retaining because it's the perfect time to get it off so he can go do his own thing and come back for the big main events. I'm not sure if Strowman's there yet to carry the company as far as being the main guy. My thing is that I think we're heading towards Roman Cena. Like, to me, that is probably the match that's WrestleMania. So if you're heading towards that, and I think Cena will probably be on Raw before the end of the year, I think Roman will be the champion at some point, which means this is the time to get it to him.
Would you put on Strowman first, then have Strowman win this match, and then have Strowman go all the way through, we'll say, Royal Rumble, and then have Reigns win it at that point?
That's what my thought is.
Thought process was. That's why I picked Strowman.
So Doug and I are on the same page then.
That would be a very well thought out, logical plan with long-term storytelling and or quality thinking. I think you know where I'm going with this.
Right.
Not gonna happen.
I agree with Doug. I think it'll be Strowman. I would say Survivor Series is when Reigns would take it off him around that time, give or take a month. And I think it would be the chase. I actually would have Strowman pin Reigns, in fact, because that way he can say, "What, I've already beat you multiple times." And then he can say, "I even pinned you for the title." It protects Lesnar. You could potentially have Lesnar versus Strowman and have Strowman retain over Lesnar, even if it's by DQ or count out or whatever. That way you can protect Lesnar in that situation. Have Joe go on, continue a program with Reigns before he loses. But my early pick, though, is Strowman over Reigns.
Hey, Aaron, quick question for you. You know the last time Roman Reigns has won a pay-per-view match?
Has it been 3 pay-per-views?
I think it's since he beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
Ooh.
He lost to Strowman, Then he lost the 5-way, where he wasn't involved in the decision in the 5-way, and then he lost to Strowman.
Wow.
I think it'd be good storytelling though.
Yeah, but he won every other match except for
He did.
pay-per-view.
You're right, but I'm just saying that, like, remember, I think the last time we had this discussion about Roman, it's like, it's been a while since he's won on pay-per-view. And I think he was facing Strowman at Fastlane. I think we know how that ended. So
Yeah.
just a little fun reminder of how Roman gets booked.
Well, I appreciate that. Like I said, I am entitled to change my opinion. If we record the SummerSlam preview show.
Nope, locked it in already. Pick'ems.
Yeah, let's say, yeah, lock that in, Doug. Thanks.
So, Andy, we got the Shield, 2/3 of the Shield, potentially reuniting. We had the issue that Dean had with the Miz. Miz retained his IC title, but he had the Miz Taraj with him to help him out. And then we had Rollins come out to help Dean Ambrose. So let me ask you, in terms of this partial Shield reunion, what have your thoughts been on it so far?
Well, apparently they need tag teams because they just decided to have Dean and Rollins come back together for some reason. Apparently they can't figure out what type of storyline to put them in, which is a problem. But anyways, it was kind of neat to see those two guys get back together. I don't know if they're really going to be a real tag team or if they're going to be like, Shield 2.0 or just, or Lone Wolves, whatever you want to call them. But I'm interested on how this will develop because, we have like 5 weeks, I think it's 4 weeks until SummerSlam. So 4 more Raws. What are they going to do?
Well, it's an interesting combination of them. You're starting to put your single wrestlers in tag teams because you keep breaking up every tag team you have. So it would be an interesting match, I think, between Dean and Rollins versus Cesaro and Sheamus to see if friendship can come back. However, I would see that 2 weeks after they possibly win a title, you'll see Dean turn on Rollins with a chair shot maybe, because that's how friendship works in WWE.
Or will Sheamus do it to Cesaro?
They're not
Both.
best friends. It won't work yet.
We're gonna share it. It's gonna become Sheamus and Dean and Rollins and Cesaro. We're just gonna keep changing tag team partners.
So, like, this whole Shield reunion thing, like, I think it's a great idea, and independent of what happened last year, it's not that big of a deal. Here's my big issue with this, is that this isn't even the first time we've had 2 of the 3 Shield members reunite. Like, I'm pretty sure for last year, for about 3 or 4 months, the big dog and and the man, so making Roman man's best friend, were basically tag team partners for like 4 months. And we didn't pretend like they had any sort of issues. So why? And I get that Ambrose, I guess, is more angry, but Roman got beat down by the chair just as badly, was just as betrayed, had to fight the authority. We just chose not to talk about it, but Ambrose is the only one who held any sort of animosity. Like, I don't know, the storyline seems a year too late. Not a bad storyline, and I like the slow burn of Ambrose not trusting Rollins. I don't even think Ambrose is going to turn heel, per se. I think that he just probably will never fully trust Rollins, but this kind of makes Roman look really stupid.
Yeah, I actually have been rather intrigued by the storyline, other than the main event scene, which has been really great. This has been the next one that I've really enjoyed, is the Shield reunion and what they've been teasing with it. One of the things I do want to kind of move on to, though, is the one that I haven't been enjoying as much, and that is Kurt Angle's storyline. So it was revealed that Jason Jordan is his son. I think we all kind of thought maybe it'd be Chad Gable. That might be a good one. I had talked with Roger, and I was really nervous about it being Dixie Carter to come out to be his lover, because it was in Nashville and they just had her on the WWE network. Luckily, that wasn't the case. My question, though, and Doug, let me ask you, where do you see this going? Like, do you think that this is going to be a very long-term storyline, or what do you see with this?
I think this is where WWE is in love with their big, tall people, their big, muscular people in Jason Jordan. Unfortunately for Jason, he didn't get that singles really kicked off in NXT and was lucky enough to have Gable come join him, and really got them going was the tag team of American Alpha. So I think they, again, because they hate tag teams, they had to break up another tag team. But this is going to be the push that he needs, because he's going to have Kurt Angle's support. And if you give Jason Jordan the Kurt Angle support, you're going to get fans behind him because of Kurt Angle and everything like that. Hopefully this isn't a long-lasting storyline, but enough to get him kick-started, I guess, and get him into at least a Intercontinental title maybe, or something along those lines.
This is not going to work. Like, for those who maybe didn't watch NXT a few years ago, after he split with Dillinger, they pushed him as a singles wrestler, and he sucked. Like, to be quite honest, he just flopped. Like, he's good at many things. He's fantastic in the ring as far as, he can do the big throws. He's good on the hot tag. He's probably got the best hot tag in wrestling. But he is not polished enough as a wrestler to carry matches for 10 to 15 minutes. That promo was cringe-inducing. I try not to over-exaggerate, but it was really bad. I suspect there's probably more to this story. I wouldn't even be surprised if this is ended up to be revealed as fake, that him and somebody else are working together, maybe Corey Graves and Blackmail Angle. But Chad Gable is the better wrestler of the two as far as a total package. He's more entertaining. He can do comedy. He can do serious. I think he's better in the ring. He's got the fans behind him more. So splitting it up was a mistake. You could have let Jordan go single and let Gable still be in his corner. Much like I said with Enzo and Cass, where you could have let Cass still be single and Enzo as the hype guy. I don't see Jason Jordan doing very well in a scene that's dominated by huge guys like Strowman, Lesnar. There's no spot for him right now. The Intercontinental title scene is dominated by guys who are main eventers who don't have room, like Finn Balor and Seth Rollins and Ambrose. So the only thing left is a tag team scene that you didn't put him in. So where does Jason Jordan won't be on the WrestleMania card. He will probably be in the Battle Royal. And to what end is this going to accomplish anything? Like, I would not be surprised if he's back with Chad Gable by next April or someone else.
Kind of like a Mojo Rawley.
Like a Mojo Rawley, like a big cast. Like, it's just not going to work.
And the thing is, I completely agree with that. I just thought it was kind of stupid that, like, oh, Jason Jordan is your kid. That's the payoff of this storyline. I thought it was going to be something huge. It's just like, oh, there's Jason Jordan. Really? And Chad Gable, I like his tweet. I think he said, what? Or something like that. But like you've said it exactly. Chad Gable is the better worker in this case. But Jason Jordan has a look. That's the problem. And Chad Gable is short, and Jason Jordan is tall. That's the thing. And I think that's why they're like, oh, let's push him. And honestly, I don't think they knew about this until probably the day before or the day of, that it's going to be Jason Jordan. I just think that this is something that just happened.
Now, I know there's been speculation online, and this was something I thought about too, was what if Jason Jordan, like, faked all this stuff in order to try to get a push, and then maybe it turns out it's Triple H behind it, which sets up Triple H versus Kurt Angle at WrestleMania with Jason Jordan and Kurt Angle's, or in Triple H's corner, or maybe Kurt Angle and Triple H have a match at WrestleMania and Jason Jordan turns on him, and it's revealed what I had just said. That was something that speculated. I actually think that might be a good payoff, and it could get Jason Jordan that push to kind of the upper mid card. But I almost feel like he then would be wasted on Raw because of what Roger had said, and he might do better on SmackDown. So what do you do? Do you trade him to SmackDown then? What are you doing with this? And I don't think that they have an idea. I think they were like, hey, here's a good starting point. Let's figure out an end somewhere down the road.
And Aaron, to your point, if this is supposed to be the kickoff for Hunter versus Angle, don't you have someone who would be a better transition that you could have utilized? That could have been Kurt Angle's secret lover on the side, somebody that Triple H is intimately involved with, who has a history with, and not that I will necessarily want to see Stephanie back on television, but if you actually want to set up her versus Angle, Stephanie is the fulcrum here, like, not Jason Jordan, who logically isn't even considered one of, like, Hunter's NXT guys. Like, he's not part of that, like, alliance group. So it's like, I don't know. This is a very strange storyline. I'm curious what the payoff is going to be, because I suspect they kind of just threw this at the wall and they're trying to figure out, see if it sticks.
And one last question I had for everybody: the three I's now, do they stand for illegitimate interracial intercourse?
Oh my gosh! So, there was a promo. There was a promo that Kurt Angle had with Booker at one point, and he made some interesting comments about Sharmell. I'm just saying, if you put Kurt Angle and Sharmell together, you kind of get something that kind of looks like Jason Jordan. With Booker T being on Raw right now, I'm just saying, somebody needs to get a test. That's all I'm saying. Like, if Sharmell shows up at all on Raw, I'm going to laugh so hard. And Booker, I want to hear that commentary. Like, he might actually get fired.
I seriously want them to do a twins kind of thing where they reveal that Gable is also the son of Angle. And it really will be a brother from a different mother, the American Alphas.
I would be okay with this. The American Angles at that point.
Yeah. Well, greatest tag team, what was it? Shelton Benjamin and Haas, yes. Now, see, there's a WrestleMania event right there. You have them all fight for the affection of Kurt Angle.
Just having Kurt Angle hanging in a shark cage.
Dude, that's what we'll do. We'll put Kurt Angle on a pole match.
Oh gosh.
Oh god. Oh god. So you have Kurt Angle in one corner, and you have the Olympic gold medal in another corner, and you have like a briefcase with a push in another corner, and just Charmel.
And Bagwell's mom in the other one, right?
Judy Bagwell. She can be in a wheelchair in the corner, and this would be like the Feast or Fired.
Right.
I could book for TFW. Like it's basically the same thing they do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. All right, let's thank our sponsor, HostGator. Are you a blogger or a podcaster, or are you just not happy with your web hosts? You can check out HostGator.com. You're going to find web hosting made easy and affordable. HostGator offers unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, one-click strip installs with a free sub builder, and hands on the best control panel out there. Stop by today and try a free demo to see how easy it is. And if you use a special coupon code OFFTHEMARK, you're going to save 25% off your web hosting packages. So what are you going to lose? Check out HostGator.com and take a bite out of your web hosting costs. Also, make sure you check out Section 86's Off the Mark page and click on the banner at the top to save big on items from WWEshop.com. All right, WWE SmackDown. Let's talk about the WWE title. Roger.
I will defer my time to Doug as I continue to protest, and I refuse to talk about this illegitimate holder of a championship that they have no business touching. Doug, take it away.
So, Jinder retains over Orton. Who didn't see this coming? It did come with the help of the Great Khali, which I think is, great. Good job. You bring back the Great Khali for what? One appearance? Hopefully this is it. I do not want to see him continue any feuds. I was not a big Great Khali fan. But I do think I saw online that this is going to give a Great Khali versus Orton at SummerSlam match, which is going to be absolutely horrible. Hopefully pre-show. Probably not, but unfortunately, I think that this is the way that they're going to go. Where they go from here with Jinder and who he's going to face, that will be – I was kind of interested that – and this is where I have a little bit of a problem with SmackDown. Their shows are 10 times better than their pay-per-views. It's unbelievable how bad the pay-per-views can be, and their shows can be absolutely amazing. This is just I'm actually very, very excited to watch next week because you have KO versus AJ, the rematch, which I'm sure shenanigans will be involved. But you also have Cena versus Nakamura, which I'm sure, again, shenanigans will be involved. Probably a Baron Corbin interference or something like that. Mad that he's not getting in the mix. But either way, you're going into your number 2 pay-per-view with Jinder Mahal as your possible main event aspect, holding onto a title, and I just think that's sad.
Andy, do you mind if I steal my time back for a second? Because I have a question for Aaron,
Okay.
going back to, I think, a topic that we talked about two maybe podcasts ago, and I think it was when Jinder first won the title, and then you had made a point about how anybody with the proper booking is worthy of a potential main event slot. 2 months into this failed abortion of an experiment, give me your thoughts on Jinder as a main eventer, please.
Yeah, I do think that anybody with proper booking could potentially be in the main event scene. However, though, I think the biggest issue that they've had with Jinder is that they did not give him proper booking prior to going into it. And I'm talking about when he returned. Before that, he was with 3MB. He obviously was a jobber. That's fine. When he came back, though, if you knew that this was going to be the case, he should have been protected. They protected his finisher. They brought in the Singh brothers. I think that was a very smart move. And even still, I think that the biggest mistake that they had was giving him the title right away. I think they shouldn't have done that. I actually think this would have been the pay-per-view to give him the title. I think that if you booked him properly, you have him barely lose the match to Orton at what was it? Not Backlash or
Backlash.
What it was Backlash.
Backlash.
So you have it where he Orton wins via DQ or whatever, and so they set up the rubber band match, and Orton wins maybe via count, something stupid, and so Mahal says, you know what, I want one final match with you, and the Punjabi prison match because WWE really wanted to push that. I'll talk about the Punjabi prison match in a little bit. But if you did that, I think that it actually would have been a bigger success than what it was. That's what I feel. I feel like you could have made this a bigger success than what it was. And then you have him hold the title. They do their trip to India. Then he loses it. If you are set on him holding the WWE title, I do believe, and especially after everything that's gone, everything that's been said, I think that he should have just held the IC title. I thought that even prior to that, but it's just it is the most prestigious title in all of wrestling. They've protected that title so much. And Jinder Mahal, I believe, is the worst or second worst person to hold that title, in my opinion. I really, and I believe it'll probably be that way for a long while. I don't know if there'll be anybody worse than Jinder or potentially Vince McMahon, just given the fact that, he's not a wrestler, sort of thing.
I would argue he's worse than Vince because Vince has had good matches.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say the same about
promos.
Oh, he does. I mean, Vince is a legendary promo guy, to be fair.
Aaron, who's the number one worst?
Well, Vince or Jinder, I would say. Well, and I'm saying Vince shouldn't have held the title because he's not a wrestler. That's my rationale. It's not as bad as David Arquette or Vince Russo, but it's in that conversation. I would say Vince is probably top 5 worst people to ever hold the title. I would probably argue, not because he doesn't deserve it, but because of what I had said earlier. My question, though, just real quick, Andy, I'm curious your thoughts on the Punjabi prison match.
I give 2 craps about it. I really didn't care. What's it? Sometimes they'll come up with a gimmick, and I think the last one I remember that I was like, wow, that's really cool, is the Elimination Chamber. This is stupid. It's really stupid. You have 15 seconds or whatever to get out of the window.
1 minute.
1 minute to get out. That's dumb. And especially because I bet if Randy Orton really wanted to, he could probably squeeze through there because, the Singh brothers, one of them did it. It was stupid. I will say I like the bump that the one Singh brother took, which was awesome. And he did not land properly whatsoever. But when he came off the Puma, whatever it is, it doesn't matter.
Punjabi prison.
Thank you. When he jumped off there and landed, that was one of the funniest things I've seen. Because
Roger, it was almost 2 years ago now. We were doing this weekly. Andy was here, and we watched the triple tier cage match from WCW, and I you know what, and even after watching, I was like, it wasn't that bad. Let me ask you this much, because the Punjabi prison match has a number of rules that are kind of interesting.
That's a word. Interesting.
Which do you think is a better match type, the Punjabi prison match or the triple tier cage?
Wow. Like, this is comparing an F to an F minus. I guess in a world in which I am given 2 competent wrestlers, like even DDP and Jarrett in a Punjabi prison match, I still think would be worse than DDP, Jarrett in a triple cage match. Because yes, a triple cage is stupid, but ultimately it's really just Hell in a Cell with like a ladder. Whereas I'm not really sure what a Punjabi prison adds to a cage match other than a bunch of weird door stipulations and a double climb. Like it doesn't seem to really, it's like there's no extra benefit, but you can't see anything. So it's just all negative. Whereas like a triple cage match, like there's some cool things you can do. I mean, obviously they did some spots that I thought were in bad taste, but you could do some cool things with triple cage potentially. There's no good with a bamboo covered steel match. The match is crap. Like Andy said, this is stupid. This will always be stupid. It's very appropriate for Jinder Mahal. It's freaking worthless.
And Doug, do you think this is the worst match stipulation, maybe ever?
You mean in WWE? Or can we throw in GFW or TNA in this?
Maybe the reverse battle royal at least had the idea behind it. I understood. Execution, not so much.
What was the one where they had to put the belt back up?
What about the match where they were in the
King of the Mountain?
Yeah.
Oh, King of the Mountain is terrible. Yeah.
The steel cage match in a truck while the truck was driving. That was old WCW.
Oh, that was WCW. Yeah.
Wait, was that the Thunderdome?
Maybe. Yeah, I think that was Thunderdome.
I don't remember what it was, but I mean that one was really, really bad. I will say this for the Punjabi prison match. If it was just a double cage match, I think I'd enjoy it a little bit more. The whole idea of 4 referees holding up a door for a minute and doesn't make any sense because why don't you, if you're the person that's like one wrestler can ask for one side of the thing to go up. Well, if I'm the other wrestler, I'm just going to go to the other side and say, hey, referee, open up this side. I'm going to escape out of that side. And now it's just a race outside. There doesn't even need to be a single punch thrown. Now, if it's you must go over and then you must go over again, then you're looking at a little bit, okay, so it's just basically a double cage match. So it's a little twist of a cage match. I'm okay with that. But the idea of all this other stuff is silly. It's just let's make rules just to make rules and doesn't accomplish anything. I was at least a little bit happy with the Great Khali coming out in the aspect of I've been waiting for a cage match to end somewhat similar to that, where the person is actually what I would have done is had Orton on the way down and Great Khali hold him up in a chokehold kind of thing until Jinder could get up and over. So that really he just needed to have his feet touch. Or if you would have had the Singh brothers like jump in and get Orton to land on them while Jinder was falling down too. So it's technically Jinder's feet touched the ground first. I would have liked that better. But overall, it's still a stupid match.
And my last point on this, I actually had never seen the Punjabi Prison match before. So luckily with the WWE Network, you can just search Punjabi Prison and the other two came up. So I watched Undertaker Big Show, which with what they had to work with was not that bad with what they had to work with. But then Great Khali and Batista. And I'll be totally honest with you. I would like if I was giving a grade, Undertaker Big Show, maybe like 1.5 stars. Batista Great Khali was half a star, if that. And this match, same thing. It was not very good. I hope WWE retires this, puts it out to pasture, and just it goes on a top 5 weirdest match stipulations of all time in 10 years from now.
And when you say hope they retire, you're talking about the Punjabi Prison or Jinder Mahal?
Maybe a combo of the two.
Okay.
Yeah, both. So, Aaron, do you think that Cena's actually going to face Jinder at SummerSlam?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be Cena, and I think it was to Doug's point that Shinsuke will probably get interfered with by Baron Corbin.
Do you think that Corbin's going to cash in on Cena, though, right away? So Cena will win it, and then he cashes in.
I don't think Cena will win it. I don't think that they waste it here. As Roger had pointed out earlier, if they're moving towards Roman versus Cena, that's where you have that be the 17th title. That's where you have Cena would actually get face support to win the 17th title. That would be a much bigger deal than him against Jinder Mahal.
All right.
This is just bad storyline on bad storyline. Because you have that aspect of it. And I love how Cena even called himself Super Cena is going to go into this match. He's going to have all the hype. It's going to be a whole nother America versus the evil foreigner. But at the same time, can you really have Jinder Mahal beat John Cena? And that's the part that scares me to a point that I actually really, really hope Baron Corbin interferes in the middle of the match and cashes in and takes the title from Jinder at that point so that you don't even have to have Cena win or lose.
We've gotten to a point where save us Baron Corbin is a realistic expectation. I want you to understand that we were at TakeOver Dallas and we talked about how Baron Corbin was nothing close to ready, a point that we all pretty much agreed with. And less than 2 years later, we are pretty much all hoping that Baron Corbin saves us. Yeah.
I would have never guessed that we would be talking about him saving us ever.
I agreed, right? I would have never said that we'd be at the point where we're actually looking forward to the idea of Baron Corbin walking out as champion. But Jinder has been catastrophically bad. I said on the last podcast that if it were Roman versus Jinder, I'd cheer for Roman. That's how bad I think Jinder is. The same applies to Super Cena. Even though they basically rewrote history and Brian came out and said that, just because he's John Cena, he can't just make himself into a title match. So I'm like, that's weird because didn't he make himself into the Royal Rumble title match because he was John Cena? And AJ's entire point was that you booked him into it simply because he was your brother-in-law. So now, like 6 months later, he can't do that anymore? Okay, let's just pretend that didn't happen. But the storyline is the same. It's bad foreign guy versus John Cena. We saw this at Battleground with Rusev, and now Jinder's going to do the same storyline. I don't care. John Cena has gotten better with his matches, but he's no way, shape, or form good enough to make anything with Jinder Mahal entertaining. I think Jinder has been such a catastrophic failure that I could see Cena winning here, though it doesn't seem to be logical because, to Aaron's point that I had made earlier, if you're going to build up the 17th title win, you do that at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like they got to get that belt off of him because it's not working. And, no one cares. So even ESPN ran an article about how the U.S. title is by far the more prestigious championship. It's been main eventing SmackDown almost week in and week out. That's how bad Jinder has basically been. So it's time to move on. My only thought, though, is that Cena is still, for the most part, all purpose intentions, is a part-timer. Can you have two part-timers with the heavyweight title? I mean, you could, or maybe Lesnar drops it, but I don't know. Like this needs to be over and done with. And fast. Save us, Corbin. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying that, but please just get the title to Baron Corbin. There's some fresh matchups you can do with Orton, with AJ, with Jericho, with all of the people who potentially on SmackDown. Neither one of these two guys need the belt.
I agree. Actually, the way it sounds, if I'm right, Jinder will actually keep the title until September.
Mm-hmm. Ugh.
So that means we got to put up for at least 2 more months of him being the champion, which I think we can. Well, it's just a broken record at this point. It just stinks. But anyway, so Roger, you U.S. title, you just brought that up. It's heating up, and we had AJ actually won the U.S. title at Madison Square Garden. What are your thoughts on this?
I liked it. I've always thought that the Madison Square Garden show should be treated as pay-per-views. And Madison Square Garden is arguably the most famous arena in America. It's kind of been symbolic with big things in the WWE. Hulkamania started at Madison Square Garden. Obviously, you've had WrestleManias at MSG. It is the world's most famous arena is its tagline. So the idea of AJ winning the title at Madison Square Garden was fantastic. What I don't particularly understand is why he then dropped the title at Battleground and what was a very odd finish, I guess is the way to explain that. Like, we all saw the ref spot, then they kind of just went into normal wrestling. Then it went into like a weird, and I guess the spot, they didn't really hammer this home on commentary, so I'm not even sure. Was it supposed to be that the referee was out of position? Was it that both guys' shoulders were down? Like, it didn't seem like anything that a ref spot was necessary for. No low blows happened. No cheating happened. It was just an awkward crossface into a pin. Was that a botch? Like, I mean, I legitimately don't know what that finish was supposed to be, but they either forgot to talk about it on commentary, or maybe the two of them messed up the spot, or I don't know, but something about that just doesn't seem to make sense for them to include a ref spot and then include no real funny business and no one talks about it. And then it just is forgotten.
Well, the rumor going around was that they changed it halfway through the match, which is very weird to me. And they said that's why because after the match was over with, AJ just was in the ring. He was just standing in the ring. Like what the heck happened?
Like, when you say they changed, are you saying that they called it backstage?
I think they called it backstage because even after the match, because usually after the match, they do all the replays. This one didn't have it. It was just, they usually would highlight one guy, and then instead they just kind of did, I think, 2 things for Owens, and that was it, because they weren't prepared for it. They were prepared for AJ's highlight of him retaining, but, at least they got it right when he regained it back on SmackDown. I mean, that was the positive part about it. But still, it was kind of a weird thing. You switch it, you hot potato. They did that
for the second time.
Yeah, but I'm glad that AJ has it, and I think it does belong around his waist. And I think that him and Owens are going to have a great feud going into SummerSlam.
My understanding of this is, and I agree with what you guys have said, Roger. Him winning at Madison Square Garden, the technical home of WWE. It's a big thing. And I read online that it was also in timing with a AJ movie that's going to be coming out later this fall. They needed a big title kind of thing to film and include into the DVD. Probably an extra, hey, watch the match where he wins the title that no one else got to see previously. So I understand that. And then when KO retains at the pay-per-view, I didn't have a problem with it. The only problem I had was the ending was just stupid. And I was hoping for something when I watched SmackDown to please explain this for me. Please give me something. Give me a reason why you gave it back to KO so quick. What's going to happen? Are you going to push AJ into the main event title run or something along those lines? Is that why? But then they have the 3-way at SmackDown, which I think would have been a perfect match for SummerSlam, and they just gave that away again, proving that the SmackDown show is better than any pay-per-view. I'm not even going to watch pay-per-views anymore for SmackDown. I'll just wait until the Tuesday after to see what, to be really entertained. It made no sense to me in a business aspect or anything like that, because they could have sold this as a huge match. It made sense storyline-wise for Jericho to return, demand his rematch, and for AJ wanting his rematch. The match they had on SmackDown is probably the best match in WWE I've seen in a long, long time. And for that to be on a free weekly show is just bad business, in my opinion. We're going to still see. And then to have KO go ahead and say that next week I'm going to demand my rematch. Are we going to do this every other week until we get to SummerSlam? I really don't know. And it makes me fear what they're doing to the U.S. title.
And I totally agree with Doug. And, the hot potato with Jericho and him was unnecessary. If anything else, it would have been better for Jericho to come back now, as he did, and lay claim to the title. AJ should have retained at the pay-per-view. And I understand they want to make it unpredictable, but you didn't need to have the three-way. You really didn't need to have that. I think that was actually a bad move on WWE's part. I think it was unnecessary. And, if you are trying to book this title and make it something special, I think that having these constant title changes makes it look like it's a prop almost. And I think that's what you don't want to do. And the Jericho one, that was the one that really upset me the most. And this one, was just unnecessary. And also, to Doug's point, Shinsuke Nakamura and Baron Corbin went to a DQ finish at the pay-per-view. AJ and KO had just kind of a really weird finish. Both those matches got finalized that Tuesday, like he said. And same thing with the women's title, the briefcase. That was 2 Tuesdays after the pay-per-view. What's the point then of the pay-per-view? I kind of feel like Raw's pay-per-views have been top notch, and SmackDown's have been terrible. But SmackDown week to week is fairly good, whereas Raw week to week, you only need to see like 1 or 2 segments and you're done. So big mistake on WWE's part.
Yeah, I completely agree. So let's move on to our monthly topic. We're going to talk about tag team wrestling. So we got the list of tag teams that we have on Raw are the Club, the Revival, the Hardy Boys, Sheamus and Cesaro, and Heath Slater and Rhino. Aaron, what do you think so far about the tag teams, at least on Raw?
So this is kind of interesting. I thought that wrestling goes in highs and lows, the peaks and valleys. And with tag team wrestling, I think probably last year it was kind of at a peak for sure. You had Enzo and Cass on Raw who were doing really well. And this is even before the Hardy Boys made their return. But you had Enzo and Cass. You had the Club who were making a name for themselves. American Alpha was doing really well in SmackDown. And you had a number of people that were there that were, showcasing really good tag team wrestling. And a lot of those aren't even there anymore. And there's talks about other tag teams breaking up, or ones that, hey, they already show the cracks, so they're probably not even going to be around for much longer. And realistically, if you look at Raw, the Club, the Revival, and the Hardy Boys are like your 3 top tier tag teams. Sheamus and Cesaro, you could also argue, because they obviously have the gold, but they were thrown together as a tag team. I don't even think they were even featured on Raw this past week, So really, they
were shown watching.
Yeah. So I mean, they weren't even like no match, nothing, So really, you have the focus is on like the Hardys, and they're trying to put a focus on the Revival. So tag team wrestling, and Slater and Rhino haven't been on TV for a couple of weeks, I don't think, for Raw. So really, you have 4 teams then for Raw. And then on the SmackDown side of things, it's really only New Day and Usos that are kind of going at it right now. And after them, which are the A's, you have Breezango, who they're entertaining as hell. I really like them. But who's the next team to step up to the plate to take on New Day after they retain over the Usos at SummerSlam? Who are they going to face? Who?
Wow. Well played.
Mm-hmm. It's becoming a joke. I'd rather see them just, they need to either form new tag teams. You know what? I actually enjoyed the idea of Sami Zayn and Ty Dillinger as a tag team, as they teamed up. Mike Kanellis and who did he team up with? English. That's not really a great tag team, but they're going to have to start putting some single wrestlers together just to get them on the show and relevant, because the Ascension are not relevant. The Shining Stars are not relevant. The Hype Bros are going to do their little feud in between where they're, on if they are a tag team or they're not a tag team and go on like that. So we'll see how that all goes. But really you only have the New Day and the Usos. So this is going to be one of those things that it's probably going to have to go on. Luckily enough for SmackDown, the New Day and the Usos have been their highlight of their whole tag team division. Having those two going at it time after time, the matches are not getting boring. I'm still looking forward to it. So they at least have that going. Whereas the Raw tag teams, I'm starting to lose interest. I love the Revival. Them getting some wins over the Hardy Boys to give them a little kind of push, I think is great. If you do put Rollins and Dean Ambrose together, that's again goes back to my point of you're going to have to start doing that if you want to make the tag team relevant again. It's going to be a while until they ever do that.
To kind of circle back to a point earlier of about Jason Jordan, there are certain people who the kind of the sum of the parts is greater than the individual. I would say New Day is a perfect example of this. Those three by themselves would never be close to the spot that they are at as far as being one of the top attractions in the company. But you look at them as the New Day, and they're fantastic. You look at Jason Jordan and Chad Gable, and they are just fantastic together.
Two divisions, and you only have 9 tag teams. That's one division. That's one decent quality division. And you almost kind of have this problem with women, but you really have this with tag teams, is that you've got 8 teams. You've only pushed 4 of them. You have one face tag team on Raw, which is unbelievable. Like, I don't even understand how that works. SmackDown, look, New Day and Usos is great. I agree with Doug that I can't wait to see the SummerSlam rematch. But where do they go from there? I don't even know who the next team in line to challenge the New Day would be. New Day versus Breezango, those comedy segments could be amazing. But Breezango has never been pushed to be on the New Day's level.
I can only imagine the skits that they could pull off, though. The 5 of them together, it would be phenomenal.
No, not even a question that they would be entertaining. But if you look at WWE, some of their big stars have come through the tag team division. Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Jeff Hardy, Edge. It is a proven fact that you push tag teams and you can create stars. Don't need to destroy these tag teams like they did with American Alpha, with Enzo and Cass so soon. Like, there's no point. And it's hurting them not only as a whole, but it's killing the division. Like, they need to just combine these. And I said this on every podcast, I'll say it again. They've got, and even NXT has suffered this problem, right? You just broke up DIY. So you've got basically the Authors of Pain. You've got TM61 when they come back. And I think they're starting to push Heavy Machinery and maybe a little bit of Sanity, but I don't know how much they have long term. Like, Authors of Pain, I think you can bring them up and push them as a dominating force. And you have to do it on SmackDown because you've already got enough heel teams on Raw. You can't add a third heel team there. And then TM61, you send them to SmackDown, or you send them to Raw. But then, what are we doing going forward? Why are we not building this division? And look, you've got so many cruiserweights that are not being used. Like, let them outside of this little bubble. Cedric Alexander and Rich Swann. That's an entertaining tag team right there. Trent Seven and Tyler Bate over from the UK tournament. That Mustache Mountain. Entertaining tag team. You start pushing these guys and letting them get some of this exposure on Raw. Build up these divisions simultaneously as opposed to having 16 cruiserweights and you only feature the same 6 or 7 every week. It's like, use these tag team titles or get rid of them. Do something. Don't just have them out there floating around doing nothing.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, Roger. And I think that's an excellent point because on Raw, as you had mentioned, maybe they're turning the club face, maybe, but really it's only the Hardy Boys. They are the number 1 face on Raw. And unless they bring over Chad Gable to team with Jason Jordan, which I doubt they're going to do, you don't really have a plethora of tag teams. That was something that we were so excited about last year was look at all these tag teams. And the only thing that you could really potentially do is consolidate the tag teams, but I don't think WWE is going to do that. So you have to find your talent elsewhere. And the cruiserweights would be an excellent way to give some more talent over there on Raw.
But do the cruiserweights actually need to be on Raw, or should they just change 205 Live to 205 and then have it taped down at the Full Sail? Do you do that?
Ooh, so if Austin Aries were still there, I would have said yes because I think a lot of those guys could kind of vacillate between both. Like Austin Aries could be both an NXT challenger and a cruiserweight challenger. Same thing with like a guy like Roderick Strong. I think he fits that cruiserweight bill, or at the very least, he's close enough. I don't know. I mean, 205 Live, it's not a bad show by any means. Like, I don't like this idea that the cruiserweights are in this stupid little bubble excluded from the rest of the roster. Like, Neville right now is one of the best pushed characters on across any show in any division. He is easily the type of person that could be feuding with a Finn Balor right now. And it doesn't need to be the type of feud over the Cruiserweight Championship. He could have a feud on Raw with Balor, where the two of them are fighting over the number one contendership for the IC title, and then he could simultaneously have a feud on 205 Live over, like whoever his number one challenger is for the Cruiserweight Championship. But instead, they treat like the Cruiserweights, like I don't think any of them have fought anyone outside of the division since the beginning of 205 Live. And like if you remember WCW, sometimes the Cruiserweights would fight people outside of their division. The X division, like AJ Styles and Austin Aries, made a career out of moving up and fighting other guys. Why WWE has this weird thing of like keeping them in this box, I truly don't understand.
They could be utilized in both shows. So if you're going to have them on Raw, that's fine. Have them on Raw. Let the guys that you're not using have them do a tag match, or have them go in the tag division of Raw, and then you can have them then when they when they broadcast 205 Live. Okay. Well, then they can also go out there and say, hey, you screwed me on this match. I needed the tag and you couldn't get over to me. So let's, some type of feud. They could do something simple like that. But I do watch 205 Live. It's kind of just in the background, but because I wish it was like the Cruiserweight Classic, but that's a completely different topic. But right now the tag teams, I think consolidating is probably the best thing. But the WWE will not do that because I will say they're sticking to, if you're on this brand, you're only on this brand, besides John Cena, of course. But yeah, tag team wrestling, at one point we were talking about how good it was, and now it's just kind of like, well, it's in the crapper. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, and I think consolidation is the only way you can really revive this, because you do have some very positive, strong stars. And can you imagine having the Usos on the same brand as the Hardys? I mean, that'd be a money match right there. I mean, that is a really good match. And then you can move them on to somebody else. If the club is turning face, well, no, I don't want to see the club and Usos again, but you could you could have the club and Breezango work together, either as faces or heels. The Revival versus Breezango, that would be interesting. No funny bits, just fists. You could do a lot of really fun things with that. I don't think WWE is going to do it. I think they're going to be really stringent with the brand split. But I think that the way to make tag team wrestling survive, this is how you do it.
All right, so that's all the time we have for this month's show. If you're into the Twitter, you can follow the show at AwefullMark86. I want to thank 86 Productions for hosting and editing the podcast, and I want to thank all of our listeners for taking time to download and listen to the show. And for Doug Hahn, Roger Cave, and Aaron Hughes, I'm Andrew Hughes, and until next time, see you in the ring.